The Payday 3 closed technical beta has been going on now for a couple of days, and Starbreeze have confirmed that over 100,000 people have got access to get an early taste of the game before it launches in September. They've also said that no more codes are going to be given out. I have had some people tell me they've received codes after they've said that. Maybe it's residual, so still keep an eye on your inbox, but it does sound like it's probably unlikely now that if you haven't got a code, you'll get one. But either way, whether it's those of you playing the Payday 3 beta right now, or those of you waiting just over a month until the full launch on September 21st, or the early access on 18th for Silver and Gold Edition owners, I'm here to give you 10 tips for Payday 3 based on playing the beta that are either things I've been asked about a lot, things you might not know how to do, or just handy little tricks that I think are very important to mention if you want to improve your gameplay, your experience, or just try something new. So with that, here are 10 things you need to know about the Payday 3 beta. First off, I want to talk about leveling up. It's the hottest question that everyone's been asking. How do you level up in Payday 3? Because it isn't made inherently clear in the beta. Unlike Payday 2, you don't just level up by playing heists and completing objectives. You level up by completing challenges. There are a whole range of challenges you can complete within Payday 3, but unfortunately in the beta, you don't know what any of those are, as this build of the game did not provide the challenges tab that should exist on the main menu. There should be one that says challenges, and in the build I played in Sweden in June, there was one. So in the full game, you'll be able to look at the challenges, see what you can complete, and actually track and monitor things so you know what you're working towards. You'll still be informed at the end of the heist which ones you completed in the beta as well as in the full game, but it's more of a guessing game because you don't really know whether you've completed any challenges until you finish the heist, and it may well be you don't complete any, and it may well be that you complete 10 or 12, as I've had both of those happen to me while playing the beta. It is also worth saying that there have been a lot of XP and progression issues during the beta specifically, so maybe that you completed a bunch of challenges and didn't get the progression from it, but to confirm it for everyone, if you want to level up in Payday 3, whether it's in the beta or in the full game, it's completing challenges that will get you there. In the beta, you can only get to level 22, and in the full game, the maximum level cap is 150, but Payday's Twitter has already been teasing that could increase over time. Sticking with the theme of progression for number 2, we're talking about weapon leveling, as in Payday 3, every gun you use has got its own unique level. You level it up by just playing and completing heists, and every time you level up your gun, you'll earn a new attachment, whether it's a sight, a grip, a barrel extension, whatever it might be, you'll earn them as you level up your gun. Now in the beta, once again, like the overall level for the game, there is an artificial cap right now. I thought that it was level 9 for all guns, but it seems like they're different levels for different guns. I've got to 9 with one of the primaries, but only got to 7 with one of the secondaries and not been able to get over, so there are some artificial caps in place, and it means that you'll be able to see attachments that you can't unlock, so it's worth remembering that you might not be able to unlock everything in the beta for the guns that are available, but leveling up the guns is how you unlock those attachments. Play through the heists using the guns, and you'll get XP towards them. And then finally, for number 3 for progression, we want to talk about skills very briefly, because the skill system, while I think is an improvement over Payday 2's, may be a little bit unfamiliar to those of you who have not really had much time with the game yet. Payday 3's skill system is a little bit like Payday 2's, where you would earn XP to unlock different skills in specific trees. Some trees will be locked at the very beginning, and you have to research them to unlock them. To do this, you just have to press the research button over the base skill in any of the trees you haven't unlocked, and just playing and completing a heist will earn you XP towards completing the research. Researching doesn't take super long to do. I didn't really time it, but I found that after only playing a good handful of heists, I'd unlocked most of the trees fairly easily. What happens after that, though, is you need to unlock all the individual skills in each skill tree. To do this, you need to have the base skill selected, so only the basic of the original, and as you play with that basic skill selected, you'll start to earn XP towards all the preceding skills in that tree. So you can see in some gameplay here in my main menu that I have some trees that have not got any skills unlocked past the first one. I've researched the first skill, but I haven't put a skill point towards the original skill in that tree, and therefore haven't been earning the following skills. But the ones where I have got it selected, you can see I'm earning progress towards the rest of the skills. You have the first skill, which is the research one that has a basic and an ace. Everything else is only a 1-point basic skill, and then at the very end there is a master skill at the end of each tree that you can unlock afterwards. Again, this doesn't have an ace, but the nifty thing about the end skills is that you can select these regardless of what else you have picked. If you want any of the central tree skills that aren't the first or master skill, you need to have the first skill selected in order to pick whatever else you want. But you can just pick the master skill regardless. Doesn't matter what you got selected. If you want one of those big skills on the far right, you can select them no matter what, as long as you've got them unlocked. I'm hoping that Payday 3's overall full game build will explain this a little bit better, because I'm trying my best to make it as understandable as possible, and even I'm not sure if I've explained it perfectly, so hopefully there's a bit more intuition in the design in the full game so that it's easier to understand how this system works. At number 4, I want to talk briefly about weapon customization, because Payday 3 has got quite a bit of options you can do with your guns. Now, you have your base customization, where you would press the customize button in the black market to select your attachments for your gun. They're the things you unlock from leveling up, as I mentioned previously. There's also a button, though, that says cosmetic. When you press the cosmetic button, it will load into several options for adding colours, charms, and stickers to your guns. Most of the charms, stickers, colours, etc. right now can just be bought in the vendor section of the game, and you can pick a whole range of colours, either the base one to apply to the entire gun as a whole, the pattern, which will take a specific chunk of the gun. Again, you have to buy the specific piece in the vendor section, but it's relatively cheap. But you select the section you want the colour applied to, pick the colour, and then you'll have a special accented section of the gun in the colour that you've chosen. Bear in mind, even though it looks like you can choose the individual colour of every single part, you actually can't in this version of Payday 3. I'm not sure if they'll change this later down the line, but you have to pick a specific section and give that a colour, and that's it. So you can apply a colour to the whole gun. You can then apply colours to a specific section if you wish, but you can't do it to every individual section. You can't have all the sections having different colours, which is a shame. I would like it to be a little bit more flexible in that regard, but it still works fairly well. On top of that, if you want to buy charms, you can do so. The ones in the beta currently cost a certain amount of C-stacks. We'll get to those shortly, but I'm sure there'll be a lot more variation in the full game. Same with stickers. You can only buy the current ones with cash, and there's 7 options, and you can pick them to put them on the side of your gun. There doesn't seem to be any choice currently on where you can apply them. That may change later down the line, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. But just before we get to C-stacks, let's talk about mask customization, since that seems to be more appropriate right now, since we just talked about guns. Masks are customized in a very similar way. It's very reminiscent of Payday 2's system, which for some may be a good thing and for some may be a bad thing. With the masks, you can apply a base colour, just like with guns, so you can pick any colour to slap over the entirety of the mask. Some of them can be unlocked by straight up buying them from the vendors, some will have level requirements attached to them before you can purchase, but once you put your base colour on, you can then pick a pattern. And when you pick your pattern, it will apply it to the set area of the mask, and then you can choose your colour for that pattern specifically. Now, for me personally, I am a little bit disappointed there isn't a bit more flexibility in this mask customization. More just moving patterns, choosing where they could go, that kind of thing, maybe resizing. I don't mind not being able to put multiple patterns on, because as people have discussed before, it would lead to some less than ideal mask designs. But just having one pattern and being able to move that around would be quite cool in my personal opinion. In Payday 2, it certainly got to the point where some masks had their patterns just not work, they would not apply to the right place, or just not look good overall, and I'm a little bit worried we'll see history repeat itself there. Regardless, the system does work quite intuitively, and what we've got at base is very good. I'm just hoping we'll get to see it be a bit more explored upon in the full game's release. Next up, let's talk about C-stacks, because it's a currency in Payday 3 that Payday 2 didn't have in quite the same way. A few people have compared these already to Continental coins, and while they're not entirely wrong, the way they are unlocked is slightly different. They're referred to in-game as an encrypted currency, and you unlock them by exchanging cash for them. And the way that it works in the system, in case it's not completely obvious, is you can buy C-stacks currently in the beta in amounts of 1, 5, or 10 in a group, and they have a certain cash price attached to them. When you buy that specific group for that specific price, the next purchase will cost more cash, and this will scale up and up until you can't buy any more of that batch. As you can see in my build here, I've spent a lot of money on C-stacks already because I wanted to unlock the kick murder weapon template for the SMG, and that involved me trying to spread my cash across the 5, 10, and single C-stack purchases to try and get it as efficiently as possible. But what you can see also is a timer, because once you complete 11 purchases currently of each of these groups of C-stacks, you'll then be locked at that price level until the timer resets. You'll have to wait until that happens before you can start paying the smaller amounts again and scaling your way back up. If you've got a lot of cash and you're willing to spend that much on the C-stacks, then you're sorted. But if you're not, you're going to have a bit of patience. Either way, it doesn't lock you out from buying C-stacks at any point, which is good and was what I originally thought the system did, so I'm very glad it doesn't do that, but that's how the C-stacks currently work in Payday 3. Now let's talk about some loud and stealth tips. At number 6, I want to talk about Overkill Weapons. Overkill Weapons, in case you don't already know, are a special weapon you can use within Payday 3 to give you a bit of an advantage against the cops. You earn them by getting kills in loud gameplay. You do start to earn progress in stealth, but you won't want to call an Overkill weapon in stealth. That would not be a very good idea. In the beta, you only have the Piglet Grenade Launcher, which has a different name that I can't remember because it's not quite as catchy. And in the Sweden build, there was also an option for a thermal sniper rifle like the one we saw in the gameplay trailer. They'll be the only 2 Overkill weapons available at launch, but the thing to remember with Overkill Weapons is that when you call a weapon in, anyone can pick it up. It's something that I noted with Starbreeze that I wasn't the biggest fan of. They personally said it was better as a bit of flexibility so anyone could use anyone's Overkill weapon, but I do worry about the potential of that in the main game when people call in Overkill weapons that anyone else could race up to it and grab it when you've been working towards trying to get that weapon unlocked. Personally, I would only let the person who called it in pick it up to begin with, and since you can drop the gun afterwards anyway, at that point other people could pick it up. That would make more sense to me personally and prevent some kind of trolling going on. But regardless, for now, keep stacking up those kills, keep unlocking those Overkill weapons, and keep using them against the cops. Sticking with Loud for one more tip at number 8, I want to talk about Thermite Bags, because when you play No Rest for the Wicked in Loud, you're using Thermite to go through the vault roof to get in and steal all of the cash. Now, you set up the Thermite rig initially, and then later on, Bile gives you up to 4 Thermite Bags to speed the process up. The screen will tell you that it's optional, you can add more Thermite Bags into the fire, so if you want to go and get them, it will speed up the time to get into the vault, but you have to be careful that you don't put too many in. Bile will give you Thermite Bags in groups of 2, and if you put both of them in together, it will actually set off the sprinkler system. So you need to put one bag in, let it flame up, and then when the flame begins to die down again, put another bag in. Don't put both in together, as you'll overload it, bring the sprinklers down, and vastly reduce the speed you would have got if you put the bags in more carefully. So it's not just the sabotage squads from the cops that can set off the sprinklers, you can do it too if you're not careful with the Thermite Bags. Moving on to number 9, stealth has been vastly expanded in Payday 3, and there's one thing I want to point out with one of the modifiers in Payday 3. You see, once you play stealth on the Overkill difficulty, a guard will appear in the bank who has an infinitely looping pager. What that means is, after a set period of time, his pager will go off again, and again, and again, and you need to constantly be keeping on top of it. My personal advice, as I mentioned in my solo stealth video, is to just keep this guy alive, to not kill him and work around him. It is more than possible to do so, especially with the tip I'm going to be giving you at number 10. But if you want to know who he is and how to keep an eye out for him, he's the guard that's wearing a cap. All other guards just have their lovely hair out, but this guard does not. He's got a front snapback cap on, and you can use that to identify him and stay away from him. So do not kill the guard with the cap, unless you fancy getting a bit of a headache. Finally, at number 10, I want to talk about one specific piece of stealth kit called the Microcam. You get this in the game at base right from the very beginning, and it's a piece of equipment you can use to place a portable camera anywhere in the map. You can put it on walls, you can put it on doors, you can put it on floors, and most importantly, you can put it on people. It's very, very practical whether you're playing in Loud or Stealth to check choke points when cops are coming in, or to check specific guard locations or where they're up to in Stealth. And the thing I found most useful is combining this with the previous tip, as I mentioned. If you can put a camera on the Overkill capped guard, you can know where he is constantly and always avoid him. It's something that I did in quite a lot of my playthroughs when I was trying to beat the heist in Stealth, but you have to be careful, as if you try and put it on in front of him, he will detect you and try to cuff you. There are workarounds around this. For one thing, you can just stick the camera on his back and just see if you can work out where he's going, judging from the backwards camera angle, or better yet, if you try and get him at a particular angle where he can't quite see you, but half of his body is poking, say, around a corner or around a vending machine, you can stick it on one of his shoulders, and it will be a front-facing camera, so you'll always know where he's facing and where he's going. The Microcam is just a vast improvement in Stealth for Payday 3 in particular that I think is very, very useful. Unfortunately, it's in the same category as the ECM jammer, so once you unlock that, you may have a bit of a conflict of interest, but of course, I'll leave that down to you guys to decide which one you prefer to use. And ladies and gentlemen, that is 10 tips for the Payday 3 beta. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please do give it a thumbs up, let me know you've enjoyed it, and click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with all future Payday 3 news for all platforms. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you all very soon with some new videos. Look after yourselves, stay safe, and take it easy.